Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. In this video, how to sample tea. In this video, Celine and I are going to be showing you one method, our commonly used method for sampling teas. This video is going to go under the sample tea tastings and the drinking with friends playlist. If at any point in time you enjoy this video, then make sure you hit it with the thumbs up. More thumbs in the air, the more tea videos are going to come your way. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, go click that button. Okay, so this is just one method for sampling tea. It's springtime. We're talking to you from March. In fact, when you're watching this, we are going to be over in China, busy hunting for teas as we do regularly throughout the year. So it's going to be our big springtime hunting. And so it's going to be less of a luxury. We're not going to be able to do this kind of setup obviously when we're in the mountains of China. But I wanted to show you the way that we sample teas when teas are sent to us. And maybe you can pick up some tips so that you can assess teas in a more kind of blind way.
Yeah, without knowing the pricing, without knowing anything about the tea, just from the taste.
Yeah, because when it boils down to it, it's all about taste, texture, and experience, and nothing to do with price, nothing to do with farmers, nothing to do with all of the scope that we talk about. That is something that we discover afterwards, or we talk about afterwards. So I know that there's other forms of tea samplings, tea tastings. There's the classic tasting cup, which a lot of people may use. That's a nice way of doing it. So there are other methods, but this is our go-to method, especially when we have a lot of different teas to try. What we try to do is take our teas and bag them in the same bags and have them by the same type. So what we're tasting today is Chilan, also known as summer haze. So we've done a video about summer haze before. I'll put a link in the description below. We already have summer haze in stock. I'll put a link in the description below. But we're obviously on the search for our next batch of summer haze. And we tend to buy these Wuyi Yanchas because this is a Wuyi oolong. These more roasted oolongs, we tend to buy them the year after they've been produced to allow the roast to have calmed down. So end of the year, beginning of the following year, that's when we're sampling those teas. So these are all spring 2017 harvests, and it will they will have finished their roasting middle to end of last year, and they'll have a time for the roast to calm down. So what we have here is three different samples from three different suppliers. There is a price difference between them. This one is the most expensive, followed by this one, followed by this one. But the price difference is not huge. It's about a 30% swing from the cheapest to the most expensive. In tea world, that's not a big swing. It may be in other industries, but sometimes in teas you can get double the price. So 200, 300% the price. So, you know, that's relatively a small fluctuation in the price. But it's still, I don't want to taste these knowing which one's the most expensive one. So what we normally do, if you have two people, it helps, but you can do this by yourself, is you put them face down and basically muddle them up. So if you do that, muddle them up for me and I won't look. That way, I then don't know which one is which. She, if she's got a very good memory, may know which one is which, but you know, chances are, if you just zone out and bumble her for a while, just listen to some music and just move stuff around, you'll forget which is which. It's a good meditation practice, training. Okay, so then we put these down here. And what I like to use, or what we like to use, are these non-permanent markers. So basically these are markers which, you know, are pretty clear, pretty bold, but you can easily wash them off. So you can even write on porcelain and it comes off. Don't write on clay. Okay, so I'm basically doing 1, 2, 3 here.
Okay.
And then I'm going to be doing 1, oops.
Just a circle?
1, 2.
It's not so easy on porcelain, is it?
Well, it's the curve. 3 here. Okay, so somewhere that we hopefully can't see it. And now I'm going to cut them and put them in there. So there you go. So we've got 5 grams of each one here. Put these down here. So now,
can I look now?
No, I know that that's 1, 2, 3. She knows it's 1, 2, 3. So now I'm going to switch these up. Oops. Again, as much as you can do to make this blind, the better. You want to basically completely clear your mind of any preconceived ideas, any biases that you may have. So now if she switches them around, now at this point, we really genuinely have no idea which leaves are which, but we can always track it back, and that's the key. You want to be able to track it back, otherwise you're in trouble. Okay, so
gonna heat those guy ones up.
Let's heat those guy ones up. So the first point here with the sampling, and most important, is to do it blind, right? Take away any potential biases that you may have. It's remarkable how easily you can be influenced, even if you don't think you are being influenced. One thing that we learn is you can easily be influenced by knowing price, by knowing about the farmer. We go, oh, we really liked that farmer before.
Yeah.
You start to make prejudgments, and that's really not helpful when making your decisions.
Especially because there could be something amazing out there. You know, gotta keep an open mind.
So now what we do is now we have to make sure we keep these in order. So that's that one there. This is the middle one. And this is the right-hand side one. So we keep that in order, and we don't move these guy ones, because if we start moving these guy ones, we're not going to be able to assess anything. All right, so now we're going to go through the tasting. Now, I'm not going to go through a full 10-step tasting. I've done videos on 10-step tasting. I'll put a link in the description below. But really what we're trying to assess here is get a really, as quickly as possible, because don't forget that when we're doing sample tastings, especially coming up to spring, you will have 30, 40 to do in a night.
Easy.
Okay, easily 30 to 40 to do in a night. And so we want to try and do this as quickly as possible. We want to try and assess a tea as quickly as possible. Oftentimes what we'll do is then mark ones that we think are yeses. So we're separating the yeses and nos, and then we'll test the yeses. You know, so we'll go through the yeses again a second time in a little bit more detail. But this is about really assessing as quickly as possible the leaves. So first thing we do is we want to smell the leaves while the guy one's warm.
I could smell it when we put them in the guy one already.
So that's got a good roast to it.
Oh, yeah.
Now for Chilan, what we're looking for in a Chilan or a summer haze is something that has quite tall, bright aromas, has fruity notes. I often describe Chilan as a combination between a dansong, which is more astringent and more fruity and more bright, with classic Wu Yen Cha, dark roasted, like a Da Hong Pao or a Beidou, something in between. That you can smell the roast very predominantly. This one here, even more nutty.
Oh yeah, definitely more nutty.
So this has more of I can take more fruits out of this. This has got more nuts.
It's like more peanutty kind of smell to it. Yeah, this is definitely more, it's a bit more lychee or like
But this one, that one smells like the perfect combo to me. Again, just making judgments on it. Right, now what we want to do is this is the second important point, is that we want to try to brew these for the same amount of time. And we want to brew them with 3 infusions. So that way we can get 3 infusions on the table and we can taste immediately from infusion 1 to infusion 3. We don't have to go through a long process of let's do the infusion 1, okay, let's taste again. We can really assess a tea, kind of how it would evolve in one go. So, but first, before we do that, we need to rinse these leaves. Celine has a little bucket next to her.
I will.
So she's gonna rinse those. So I think that the most important factors are smelling, looking at the leaves, they all look relatively similar, smelling the dry leaves, smelling the wet leaves, and then doing your tasting. You can't do all of the different steps. It's not going to be possible to do that when you have 30 or 40 teas.
That's true.
Obviously, you can look out for liquor, color when you're looking in these white bowls. There's other areas in there, but you're not going to be able to pick up things like body sensation.
No.
You know, there are some factors that you'll have to leave out when you're doing this assessment. All right, I'm going to start sniffing.
I have to say though, from the smell of the dry leaf, I'm really into that one. I know why you like this one, because it's got a bit of the creamy note to it.
Okay.
But so far, it's changed.
Let's quickly go through them.
Yeah.
So, snapshot. Okay. and then you can pick your favorite. So it's nice to do this with two people. Whenever you're doing a tasting, a sample tasting, you can have a little discussion. Favorites?
Interesting, these two. I think this one is less nutty in smell now that the leaves are wet. So I'm going back to it. This one has kept the floral kind of fruity notes, but it's a little bit more dialed down in the fruitiness compared to the dry leaf.
Yeah.
This one is a nice all-rounder, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if we're starting to make kind of prejudgments, this one is not really doing much for me.
Yeah, it's just not one thing or the other. It's kind of a bit dilute compared to the other two.
Yeah, it has a nice aroma.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of a cheaper Shui Shen Da Hong Pao. It doesn't remind me of a very high quality Da Hong Pao, but it certainly doesn't remind me of a Qilan, not the flavor profile or the aroma profile that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean, it smells nice.
This one has got a really interesting funk to it. It's got the fruits, but it has overripe fruits, a slightly fermented smell to it, which I like. Whereas this one is more floral, more bright. Definitely this is the brightest of the lot, and I would say that's the more classical Qilan
definitely
smell.
The brightest.
If we take it to the camera, then you will see, hopefully, that one of them is slightly lighter than the other. Yes. So the one that has more of those fermented fruits, slightly more nutty, looks like it's been roasted for longer. It looks slightly darker roasted.
That one.
Okay.
This is definitely lighter.
Okay, so now we want to get on with the brewing, and this is where it gets a little bit complicated. First of all, it's really important that you brew these strong. In our opinion, you need to brew quite strong for a couple of reasons. First of all, you can really get the flavor profile. You're not teasing it out in a subtle way. You really can get the flavor profile of the tea itself, but also you can really assess if there are any negative qualities in the tea. Now, this is a commonly used approach during tasting, if you're using a tasting cup, where they'll intentionally brew with very hot water and brew it for a long period of time to really maximize the infusion. So there's a bit of give and take here, because on the one hand, you do want to brew it strong to assess it, but on the other hand, you want to assess a tea as close to how it should be enjoyed as well. True. I do think you can go too far. Yeah. You can over-extract a tea, which may give you a good idea of its negative qualities, but you're not really going to experience the tea properly. So from my point of view, what we like to do is temperature, to keep the temperature as we would recommend. So if it was a green tea, we would be brewing it at a lower temperature, but just increase the amount of time and make sure you're putting a good amount of leaf in. Don't go crazy, but the Gongfu recommendations plus maybe 10 or 15% extra. Yeah. So, just a lot of leaf and brew for a little bit longer than you would normally extract for, just to really pull out a bit more, but the temperature the same. Because I think when you start to mess with the temperature too much, you're changing the balance of flavors far too much, and you're not really getting a picture of it. Now, I know a lot of people will disagree with this and they want to brew with boiling hot water. Up to you. That's my personal opinion. Now we're going to brew. And the most important thing when you're doing this kind of multi-infusion brewing along 3 different teas is to make sure that each tea brews for the same amount of time. So we'll show you how we do that. Yeah. And for all of you on the stopwatch, it's not going to be perfect, but when you have 30 to 40 teas to taste, you are not going to do things perfectly. It's just not possible. Okay, so hit it. So this is what we do. Sorry. We pour in and we count to 5. Go. And we count to 5. Go, and we count to 5.
3, 4, 5.
And that's about 5 seconds. Wait, and we count to 5.
Now?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And then down here.
1.
So now I know that that's not perfect, but it's going to be pretty close, give or take a few seconds. If we started to do this individually, weighted individually, when you've got 30 to 40 teas, that's a lot of time that you're spending.
And it cools down too quickly as well.
Yeah, you want to try to get them as quickly as possible so that they're relatively fresh. All right, we're going to fast motion this. So what we're going to do with this one is instead of 5 seconds, we count 10, and this one 15 seconds. So we're going to repeat the same process. You don't have to watch it all. And we'll be right back, and you can see the different infusions. Okay, let's go. All right, so we have got 9 infusions, and you can see that the colors are relatively even. So one of the assessments that you can make is how quickly is a tea leaf losing its strength and its potency.
Yeah.
And you can see sometimes that in the color. So you can see sometimes one just goes off and it just becomes very light very quickly. You can do more than 3 infusions. I find that 3 infusions gives you a good enough assessment. You know, obviously, as I said, once it's in our yes pile, we'll do a full tasting with it to really assess how it is over multiple infusions.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go. Tasting number 1.
Thank you very much.
The great thing about this...
Oh my God, that's quite good, man. I like
nice. That. Okay, what are you getting? The roast is there. First infusion is always going to have a roast.
Yeah. I get the kind of fruity notes of like... Yeah, the sweet fruits, like
tropical fruits.
Tropical fruits, yeah.
Mangosteen.
But I also get a bit of custardiness in there. And then the charcoal is not too intense. It's actually really nice base. It's got a really nice base.
Yeah, mangosteen.
Mangosteen, yeah.
Some
oh my God.
Some nuts. Cream is there. A little bit, but not really creamy.
Not intensely. It's more raw and fruity.
This is where the Wu Yen Chas disappear away from the dansongs, right? So the duck shit dansongs and the black fruit punch, those Dawuye dansongs, they will have more of those creamy notes. Whereas when you start to move further into the Fujian province and Wu Yen Chas, you're looking for more of that minerality, more of a clean, fresh taste rather than the creaminess. But it is still there.
Can I just say?
Yeah.
I just got a taste in my mouth that really reminded me of ripe mangoes. There's really small, ripe, delicious mangoes.
Alfonso mangoes,
yeah.
Sweet fruit in here, definitely. Now, your choice. You can either go up the line to really just assess a tea, or you can go across in the first infusions. What do you want to do?
I think we go up the line just to see how...
I like to jump. Go straight to number 3.
I'm not jumping. Still got strength in the second infusion.
But lost its fruitiness.
Yeah, that's true.
So here we go. The expectation is that with second infusions, third infusions, the charcoal taste is going to die down. It hasn't really died down that much.
No, it's actually held its own quite well, this one.
But the problem is that the tall notes on it have kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
Not disappeared, but they haven't persisted as long as I would want.
Yeah.
And this is something that we find with a lot of yen chas, and especially with summer haze, is first infusion, immaculate, beautiful, wow, and then it disappears. And we call it all start, no finish. You know, it's really like, where is it? It's gone. It doesn't have enough legs. I'm not saying that this is a poor quality tea.
No,
it's a very good quality tea.
Good one.
Is it Mayleaf? That worries me. That jump from 1 to 3 worries me. And this is why it's good to do it this way, because if I tasted all of these and then we had time to assess, and then I'd sit down and brew a second infusion and then time to assess, you start to lose your memory of what infusion 1 tasted like. So this way you can assess it. All right, I'm going to move on to this one here.
Me too. What the hell?
Mothballs.
Yeah, and it tastes kind of like smoked.
Not nice.
I don't like that. Next.
Mothballs, really, really, really predominance of those chemically flavors.
That's weird.
And it persists in the third infusion. I don't think it's chemicals, but you know when something has been fired and it has that almost fuel taste to it.
Yeah.
It tastes like, I don't know how this was fired, but I don't think it was wood fired, or the charcoal wasn't. I think this might have been a gas fire. I don't know.
Yeah.
Guesses,
maybe.
but there's a taste to it which has a a not wood fire taste.
Definitely off-putting.
Okay, so that's a definite no, and that makes life very easy. You just cancel it off. You don't have to do any more tastings on that. Let's go for this one. Very nice. Very nice. I forgot to say, very important that you take notes. Obviously, filming this, we're not going to do that because you don't want to see us writing.
And also we can look back.
It's just, we can always watch it. Just scribble down some notes. What we tend to do is scribble down the notes and then staple it or sellotape it to the actual pack of tea. That way you can always be assured that physically there's a link between your notes and that tea, rather than namings, because when you have, again, say 10 or 20 different Da Hong Paos, and they all have Da Hong Pao A, Da Hong Pao AA, Da Hong Pao Superior, they all have different names, but they're very similar, you can easily get confused. So how is it holding up?
Very well. Very well. Like from the first to the last infusion, it's pretty much the same.
I get more cream on this. I'm getting cooked bananas.
Yeah.
I'm getting fruits. Mangostinas there, those tropical fruits, definitely. Yeah. The roast is less strong on this one, as we said. You can taste it, and you can definitely see it in the leaves. The roast is definitely stronger on this one.
Yeah, this one's kind of got less of the roast and the fruity notes. I think it's because of the creaminess that it has, rounds it up. I do like the bright fruity notes of this one though, but this one lasts longer. Yeah. In terms of the infusion. And it's really good.
So if we're judging on third infusions, this one is the winner.
Yeah.
If you're judging on first infusions, it could be this one that's the winner.
Say, yeah.
Because this one has a little bit more strength. The roast gives it a warmer feeling. But I think that this one here
is more like summer haze.
It is light for a first infusion. However, the balance of flavors is really, really nice on this one.
It's very, very nice.
I'm getting flowers, I'm getting fruits, I'm getting cream. I just wish that they had roasted it a little bit more. If they'd roasted it a little bit more, just a little bit extra, I think it would have
brought out more of the fruity notes, do you think?
More of those very ripe fruity notes. And certainly more nuttiness. So, judgments, and this is where it becomes difficult because we've now got to move on. Imagine you've got a pile, which we do have a pile of a lot of teas to try. So what do you do in this situation? Easy, cancel out this one, gone, finished. This one, I would say no to as well. Yeah. On the basis, so what we always say is we like a certain infusion or whatever, but what we always say is, would you give this to your best friend?
Yeah, exactly.
Would you give this tea to your best friend and feel proud of it? You have to try this tea. If your answer is no, we don't want to buy it. So I would say that that one is cancelled out. Yeah. And I would say, I like this. I really like this one. I think it's very nice. It's lighter than our current summer haze. Yeah. It holds its own though.
It's a shame about this one though, but it doesn't hold up.
And again, the value of doing this style of sampling versus a one infusion taster. Because if we taste this on one infusion, we'd probably be buying this tea.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
It's true.
My opinion is this is the best tea for me. This would go in my yes pile. I would then compare with other Chilans. Eventually, we would find our winner. So we'll be getting other Chilans. Usually for any type of tea, we'll have something in the region of about 5 to 20 of any type of tea. And so we will do this process. You can't do more than 3 in a go. If you start to, you can. Sometimes we do 4 or 5. But generally, you'll have to then go back to it, which is why I get really upset when our farmers only send me two brew amounts. Yeah. It's so annoying. I just keep telling them, well, I can't judge your tea because I need to do at least a few different tastings. So I think that this is my favorite. Is that your favorite too?
You know, in terms of the taste profile, like I'm really into this one because of the fruity notes. Yeah. But
this is fruity as well.
This is fruity as well, and it's got a bit more of the floral notes, which is really much like the summer haze, picnicking in the summer kind of vibe. Yeah. So
in terms of name, that certainly does suit summer haze more.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we're saying definitely no, definitely no, even though we like the first infusion, and that's going into the yes pile. Okay, so it's worth just checking how that compares to our A, B, C in terms of most expensive. So this was our least favorite. So that's number 2.
Number 2.
So number 2 is
the cheapest one.
C. It's the cheapest one. Yeah. So that's the cheapest one.
The taste don't lie.
The taste doesn't lie in this case. Yeah. All right, so then we like this one, but we're not going to buy it. This one is number 1. Number one is, number 1.
Oh my gosh.
Number 1 is...
We're going in order right now.
B, it's not B grade, they're all A grade, but we mark A, B, C in terms of price.
Pricing.
And so that means that our favorite one
is the most expensive.
Number 3 is the most expensive, but it doesn't always work out that way.
No,
in fact,
true.
I'm very happy when it's the other way around and I taste a tea which I love and find out that it's not the most expensive one.
It's like
it doesn't happen very often, in fact, but you know, when it does, it's a nice thing, because price is not just dependent on, you know, it's not linear. It's not like a direct relationship. Price means better quality tea. True. It could be different things. Maybe the farmer is more popular. The area is a particularly a more renowned area, and therefore it commands a higher price. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a better tasting tea, which is why it's important to do this blind. But it's always good when you find an amazing tea and it's not as expensive as some of the others.
Yeah.
So there you go. I hope that this has given you a snapshot idea of how you can do a comparative brewing of a few different teas easily when you want to assess quality. Obviously, this is more of a quick approach, but when you've got lots of teas to try, it's a very useful method.
Yeah.
That's it, tea heads. If you made it to the end of this video, then make sure you hit it with a thumbs up. Check out our YouTube playlist and let us know if there are any videos that you would like us to make. If you're ever in London, then come visit us in Camden to say hi and taste our wares. If you have any questions or comments, then please fire them over. Other than that, this is Celine.
Hello.
I'm Don. Hello.
Bye.
I'm Don from Maley. Thank you for being part of the revolution of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags. Keep drinking the good stuff and spread the word.
Because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.
Bye.